A very good evening to you and welcome to Primetime News on MTV Sports. I'm Nadin Majid.
And I'm Krishni Panitharatna. We start out the news with a look at your headlines.
Making headlines this evening, the Mayor of Galle, Metsiri De Silva, removed from his post. Official event held at the Supreme Court complex to welcome the new Chief Justice. Media blackout for ceremonial sitting. Sajid Premadasa says that he will continue to be with the people. Snake girl hospitalized following assault.
Certain media institutions were not allowed to cover the event held to welcome the new Chief Justice Mohan Pires.
Journalists gathered near the Supreme Court complex this morning to cover the event held to welcome the new Chief Justice. Although journalists attempted to enter the Superior Court complex, they were obstructed by the police.
The official function to welcome the new Chief Justice Mohan Pires was held at the Supreme Court complex this morning.
The event took place on the 5th floor of the Supreme Court complex. A group including Supreme Court justices, Court of Appeal judges as well as justices and magistrates representing Colombo and its suburbs were present at the occasion. Attorney General Palitha Fernando delivered the welcome speech at the occasion. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Free Lawyers Association President's Counsel Razik Zaruk also addressed the gathering.
Welcome back to Primetime News. Now I'm sure that some of our viewers will be able to remember the following footage. As you may be aware, the woman in the visuals you just witnessed is Nirosha Wimalaratna, who was at the center of controversy last year for having a cobra in her possession. Today, Nirosha Wimalaratna had to face another ordeal. She was taken into custody under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Ordinance, charging that the poisonous fangs of the serpent had been removed and the cobra had been tortured. Nirosha, who was later released on bail, sought legal action and was granted ownership of the cobra on the 11th of December last year. This morning, Nirosha Wimalaratna was admitted to hospital after she sustained injuries in an incident in Meethotamulla, Vallampitiya. The police said that a foreigner was near her at the time.
I prepared the food and stepped out of the house at about 3 a.m. At that time, my husband and I saw a man dragging this girl on the road. My husband ran to her aid and she was shouting, "Brother, save me please, don't let them take me." She couldn't say anything except that it was difficult to breathe. Her legs gave way and she fell. She said, "Sister, please save me. My snakes are inside and they are harassing me. Please take me to the police."
The News First camera captured footage of the house where Nirosha was being held. Nirosha spoke to News First about her ordeal.
They held me for about a month. They did not let me leave the house. They harassed me a lot. They took me by force saying he would marry me. He worked for an agency in Fort. They started fighting between 1 and 3 in the morning. They were drinking and then they smashed the bottle and stabbed me with a shard. Then they pushed me down and beat me on the back. Then they hit me in the face, dragged me by my hair and put me outside. Since he had a knife in his hand, I was afraid and I ran to the road.
Based on the information provided by Nirosha, the News First team went in search of the individual in question to a place that is said to be his office. The police say that investigations have commenced to arrest the Arabian national who had allegedly assaulted Nirosha. The police also said that a statement was recorded from Nirosha regarding the incident.
Metsiri De Silva has been removed from his position as Mayor of Galle and member of the Galle Municipal Council. According to the Chief Minister of the Southern Province, Shanu Jalal De Silva, the Gazette notification in this regard has already been issued.
According to the Southern Province Chief Minister, this decision was taken after investigations were held into charges of administrative and financial irregularities levelled against Metsiri De Silva. The Chief Minister noted that the power of the Municipal Council is vested with the Deputy Mayor. The Department of Local Governments had conducted an inquiry into the charges levelled against Metsiri De Silva and a charge sheet had already been submitted to him. However, Metsiri De Silva rejects these charges. If you inquire about my work from drug dealers and thugs, they will reprimand me. However, if you inquire about my character from law-abiding citizens or those with an educational background, they will tell you what kind of a person I am. I exercise the powers vested in me through the Municipal Council Act of 1948. I did not carry out any work without the consent of the Municipal Council.
Also in news pertaining to local government, a UPFA councillor of the Anuradhapura Municipal Council, Susil Tilakaratne, has been placed in remand custody until the 2nd of February. The municipal councillor was produced before the Anuradhapura Chief Magistrate and Additional District Judge today on charges of obstructing the police.
The Motor Traffic Unit of the Anuradhapura Police initiated a program with the assistance of the surrounding police stations to apprehend motorists driving under the influence of alcohol and violating traffic rules. At about 6 a.m. today, a clash broke out along the airport road in Anuradhapura. I saw a vehicle travelling towards us from the direction of the airport at great speed, crossing the yellow line. I stopped the vehicle and examined the license. I went near the driver and I knew he was drunk. I looked at the license and asked him to step down. The sergeant in charge said he was drunk and that we should take him to the police station. However, at that point, he started shouting at us in profanity and said he was a councillor and said that we could not arrest him. He assaulted me and was trying to flee the scene. We caught him for a second time. At this point, those who were inside the vehicle assaulted us. I was dealt about 3 or 4 blows. Our correspondent in the area said that the councillor was admitted to the hospital under police protection as he claimed that he was assaulted by the police.
Justice K. Sri Pavan refrained from sitting on the bench considering the fundamental rights petition which challenged the appointment of the new Chief Justice. This decision was attributed to Justice Sri Pavan's involvement in several benches that took into consideration petitions filed against the impeachment of the previous Chief Justice.
The fundamental rights petition was filed by Dr. Pakesodi Saranamuthu and the Centre for Policy Alternatives. 7 individuals, including members of the Parliamentary Council, were named as respondents in the case. The case was taken up before a panel of judges consisting of Salim Marzouk, K. Sri Pavan and S.I. Imam. According to the Supreme Court, the case will be taken up once again on the 5th of February before a new panel of judges, following the decision of Justice Sri Pavan to refrain from sitting on the bench.
Meanwhile, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka boycotted the inauguration of the new Chief Justice. The chairman of the BASL, President's Council Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, speaking to the BBC yesterday, had noted that the BASL would boycott the event. However, he had said that the BASL would acknowledge Mohan Peiris as the country's de facto Chief Justice and that the organisation would have to work alongside him in the future so it does not let down its clients.
The Lawyers Collective says that their struggle to protect the judiciary has entered a new phase due to the government going through with the impeachment motion against Dr. Shirani Bandaranaike.
A release issued by the lawyers collective notes that they are gravely concerned about the threats and acts of intimidation against members of the judicial community. The collective notes that despite there being an appointment of a Chief Justice under the controversial circumstances, they would appear before any bench of Supreme Court in view of their professional duties. The media release notes that they will not bow down to a strong-arm political tactics that is being used to undermine the judicial system, and add that they have faith in the judicial system, which they have protected over the centuries. The lawyers collective calls upon all segments of society who are committed to the restoration of rule of law and the independence of the judiciary to publicly condemn these acts and create public awareness on the seriousness of the crisis.
Now, on a related note, the International Commission of Jurists has condemned the removal of Dr. Shirani Bandaranaike from the position of Chief Justice through a letter addressed to President Mahinda Rajapaksa and Speaker Chamal Rajapaksa.
The International Commission of Jurists, or ICJ, urges that the President and the Speaker of Parliament act immediately to restore the independence of the judiciary by reinstating the legal Chief Justice, Dr. Shirani Bandaranaike. The ICJ has expressed grave concern that the recent actions to remove the Chief Justice were taken in contravention to the Constitution, international human rights law and standards including the right to a fair hearing and the rule of law. According to the ICJ, judicial independence and the separation of powers are the bedrock of the rule of law. The ICJ reiterates that members of the judiciary must never be subject to removal on the basis of judicial decisions rendered in the legitimate exercise of their professional functions. The International Commission of Jurists calls on the President and the Speaker to restore the independence of the judiciary and enact a law in Parliament to govern the impeachment process which comply with Sri Lanka's obligations under international human rights law and standards.